So, Michelle.
So, David.
Happy birthday, ASIO.
Oh, yeah.
Happy birthday.
Where's the cake?
It's a big Well, I think they'll have a morning tea.
Yeah, okay.
There'll be a morning tea. There'll be hundreds of thousands of sandwiches.
Okay.
It'll be
there
fabulous.
Children?
There is one guy that worked there whose nickname was Hats because he wanted hundreds of thousands of sandwiches. Right?
Yeah.
Now, it's the 75th anniversary of ASIO. It was formed on the 16th of March 1949, which makes it a Pisces.
Okay.
Now, Pisces are creative, imaginative. They're highly emotionally sensitive.
Yep.
And they're very vulnerable to criticism. So keep that in mind. They're also an ox.
Okay.
An earth ox, no less, in the Chinese calendar. Yes, we're using the Chinese horoscope. Don't get cross. A lot of equilibrium, tenacity, conscientious, resolute, methodical, determined. Right? If you put a Pisces and an ox together, you get a very reserved person that makes friends slowly and tends to see the world as it is. So I think, ASIO, you're on the right track now for your year ahead. It's going to be a busy year.
Okay.
There's going to be some strained relations with your superiors. I'm sorry, you're going to upset some people. It's going to be more of a strategic year rather than a tactical one with focus on long-term projects and fewer urgent tasks.
Okay.
Which brings us to the ASIO threat assessment.
Well, you know what? If that was the cake that you just delivered, let's get stuck in.
Yummy, yummy. Blow them out.
Okay. You're listening to I Spy, the surprise birthday of Australian intelligence.
Shh, here he comes. He's coming through.
Okay.
Shh.
Am I hiding?
Surprise! Oh.
No, it wasn't him.
He didn't come in.
No, not him. Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Have a happy birthday, guys.
Bye. Hello and welcome to I Spy. My name's Michelle Stevenson. I'm here with David Callan. And yes, we're going to discuss the threat assessment. We threatened to discuss it
We did
last
threaten.
week.
And look, be perfectly honest, a lot of people after our PsyOps episode were going, why weren't you talking about it? Well, I was at dinner while that speech was being made. So,
well, and also it's not like, well, we're not really reactive. We like to take things, think about it, look at the fallout from it as well, which I think is important.
And also, we did this once before, very early on in this podcast. I went, we've got to talk about this story now. And thankfully, our producer, Sam, turned around and went, why? Just relax. And it's much better that we took our time because, oh my God, this has been huge.
Yeah.
And also the reaction of people has been huge, that's what I found really fascinating is the reaction of the public to it. Now, we go through I just want to break it down because it's important when Burjo mentioned, our good friend Mike Burgess, when he mentioned...
Well, he's not really our good friend because he's yet to come on the pod.
I know, but he's a busy man. At the moment, he's very busy doing things like 60 Minutes as opposed to our little podcast, but I'm working on it.
Okay.
I've got a few contacts there.
I feel like I've heard this before.
Yeah, of course you have. It's like the promises I make my wife.
Yeah.
Like he went through the history, the things that have happened over the 75 years, the Petrov affair and Hilda Brooks and Frida Bennett, a.k.a. Anne Neal, Jack Griffiths, the homosexual interviewer, which I really like that story. And it's actually something I want to delve into because the idea of homosexuality being a security risk was only a security risk because it was made a security risk. And then, of course, the story of the Guardian, the guy that was working for an extremist organisation who eventually they brought him and his family into the building post-operation to say, sorry, your husband's not nuts. That was really important. Now, the big takeaways from this thing, and I know everyone's going, just get to it. And no, I'm going to take my time. Terrorism is down.
Okay.
Terrorism has gone to possible, not certain, right? Though I think that needle could move very quickly over the year depending on what goes on in Gaza. I think we do have that hanging over our heads. France, actually, funnily enough, Macron has said that he will swim the Seine to show that it will be safe to have the opening ceremony for the Paris Games on the Seine.
Paris is a nest of terrorism.
Well, it's not. They've got the problem with
They've got a lot of problems.
A lot of problems, but most of all, it's not. I don't think it's going to be like terrorism as in either a Palestinian-based or Hezbollah.
No, I don't think so.
I think it will be local.
They have local terrorism problems.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that with people being gunned down.
The rioting, let's be honest. They've got their firefighters are fighting the police.
I would not be going to the opening of the Olympics.
Well, my son was in Paris middle of last year and I said, what was it like? He said, you'd see smoke on like the other side of the city. You'd see smoke rising. And it's like, oh, that's where the riot is. I'll stay away from that section. So interesting enough, terrorism is kind of down but never out. Let's be honest, that's the way intelligence works. I mean, as he said during his speech, it's evolved, right? ASIO has evolved. evolved as much as the political climate and the political landscape has. The other thing that's going to come up is sabotage.
Yeah.
Now, that was a really interesting one because it then, like, the whole idea of sabotage is it's a low cost, high impact way of doing business in disruption. And that's what it is. And as he said, the Optus blackout last year was very, very indicative of how very fragile our system is. Yeah. So if either a foreign government or an extremist organisation, because as well, we don't call them terrorist organisations anymore. It's more like extremist organisations. There is chatter in the wind that there are organisations and groups and governments that are exploring, they're doing reconnaissance on potential sabotage. No one's planning on it, but that doesn't mean that some lone wolf idiot who's been going to the meetings doesn't go, yeah, I'm going to blow up the local reservoir, right? So these are things that we've got to watch out for. The big one, though, is da 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 dun dun da 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 da.
Indiana Jones?
Da 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 da. The A-Team.
Oh.
The A-Team, the little group of foreign intelligence spies that have been in Australia interfering with our good graces and good government.
China.
Yeah. Well, that was a great thing. Burjo did not say that.
No, but we know.
It came.
It's China.
It's like, literally, it was like, I've got China on every square of my bingo card.
Yeah. I could only win. China, bingo.
Yeah, bingo. Admittedly, the nest of spies from last year, well, I like the fact we had a nest of spies. Then we had a hive of spies. Now we have the A-Team, completely ruining my 80s memories because now every time I see Hannibal, I'll just think, oh, my God, you're nothing but a Chinese spy.
George Papard with that.
Oh, he'd be rolling in his grave right now. Is he dead yet? I'm not sure.
I think he is.
Yeah, I think so. So essentially, a foreign government has been targeting our academics, our business leaders, community leaders, and our politicians.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they've been targeted. So using social media, using headhunting sites, LinkedIn, all those sort of things. Also, I like the fact that they said that overseas conferences have been featuring heavily in these recruitment drives, as we discussed in an earlier episode. So, the bottom line that came out was pay attention.
Yeah, so and we know that. We talk about this all the time, that LinkedIn is kind of one of those places where you are going to be caught up in this, particularly when people are saying what their security clearance
Exactly.
is.
And that was
one of the points.
One of the things he brought up was we understand that you've got to market yourself. Yeah. And that's true. You do have to market yourself. But I don't
understand why you need to market yourself via your security clearance.
See, I wouldn't market myself, Joe. I wouldn't say, oh, by the way, I've got a top security clearance and these are the code words I have access to. That's kind of putting yourself out on a limb. If you said, I work in defence industries and I've enjoyed a very successful career, I can guess that to be in defence industries, you're going to need that kind of clearance. For academics, it's just the interesting thing with the academics is, one, there are a lot of think tanks and working groups that academics work in, which gives them access to other people, which leads us to that great ugly elephant in the room, the MP that was working with the Chinese to destroy his country for a little bit of, and I like this, Sabine Wolf said this on Q&A on Monday night, a little bit of light treason.
Just a little a sprinkling of treason.
A little bit of treason.
But, and many are saying that it is a New South Wales State Labor MP.
Well, here's the thing. They've said it's a New South Wales State Labor MP. There's a New South Wales State and federal Labor MP, so they've done both sides.
Let's be real, it's Labor. We all know it's Labor.
Well, interestingly, we don't know. And I will throw this out there. There are a couple of really good reasons why we don't know, and we really shouldn't.
I know that we don't know and we shouldn't know, but I think when people break it down and look at that period of time, they could hazard a guess.
Yes, I understand that, but I have actually.
We can hazard a guess.
We can hazard a guess. The thing is, I won't. I'm not going to personally
hazard a
guess.
But I will, because I'm a journalist and that's what we do.
Yeah, but I'm not going to name them. Simply because
I'm not going to name them.
I'm not going to name them because I'm currently trying to renovate my kitchen and bathrooms.
I would never name.
I cannot afford.
I would never name them. I will say, and even the opposition leader Peter Dutton said, a state Labor person. You've got a lot of people.
Unfortunately, when you sort of say that, here's the big problem we have is when the people say it's state Labor and this is the way it's got to be, the problem is a lot of those people have an agenda for saying it. So for Peter Dutton to turn around and say it's state Labor, he's not going to get up and go, well, it was a Liberal Party
No, he actually didn't say it. A radio commentator said it, and he said that's where I would put my money as well, to be fair.
Again, we've got to go, and this is going back to first principles, and to be perfectly honest, I don't care what side of the scorecard you're on, you're wrong. You've done the wrong thing, and you need to at least understand that. But the bottom line of this is it doesn't really matter what political stripe they are, because, I mean, we've had our first person convicted of foreign interference.
And to be honest, like our state governments tend to be the most corrupt. Like when it comes to like a lot of the corruption issues, it tends to, in New South Wales particularly, run at a state level more so over a federal level.
Now, the whole thing, let's just let it, so everyone understands where we're at with foreign interference. Foreign interference was not a crime until 2018. So June 2018, Christian Porter, as our Attorney General, went, bang, this is going in. Parliament
Which is so crazy.
What, that he was our Attorney General?
No.
That it took that long.
That it took that long.
Right. Okay. So foreign interference is now a crime on the books. So whoever it was pre that, because it was not a retrospective law.
Yes.
There has been a politician who, well, not a politician, but a candidate. So Victorian Liberal candidate Disang Duang was sentenced to 12 months for foreign interference. He was working for the United Front Work Department, which is a suspected Chinese military Ministry of Intelligence front, right? And quite a few politicians have been associated with that group. He was found guilty. He's going to serve 12 months, right? Again, Victorian state MP. Well, not MP, Victorian state candidate. There's been other Victorian political MPs that have been sort of drawn into it. Alan Tudge was supposedly being crafted as a possible asset for them. Yeah. Obviously, that didn't happen. The thing that is interesting about this was, again, here's the thing, the whole state versus federal, and we believe it's that side, not this side. I can get you close to the PM's family. That starts sort of narrowing your aspects as to who it might be. If they can get you in touch with a prime minister whose family can become an asset, right, a family member. And then, of course, we had Alex Turnbull jump up and go, it could have been me, which is like, yeah, it could have been. We don't know. He'd been approached with the perfect investment that you're never going to turn your nose up to, and he basically said it stunk. And I think he approached ASIO and said, I think I've been recruited, right? So the whole
Which is what smart people do.
Which is what you're meant to do.
Which is also, you know, what smart people who believe in the institution of Australia should do. Like it's beyond reprehensible that someone in government would have done this.
Yeah. Now, here's the reason why that's a big problem. Is we don't vet our politicians.
Yeah.
They do not get a security clearance.
I know. Have we seen half of them?
Yeah, but do you know why we don't do that?
They're problematic because of democracy.
Exactly. All right. As soon as ASIO turn around and say, I'm sorry, but we don't want that candidate to have a security clearance.
No, you can't.
Is immediately election interference.
I know, it's democratic. But like the thing is, maybe we should start because there's a few of them who I feel like should not be in a position of power.
But the unfortunate thing is,
I know,
it all comes down to constituents.
I mean, look at Donald Trump.
Well, exactly. This, if you want the glaringly obvious problem, is we have a guy who's currently facing 91 indictments, charges.
And he's the Republican nominee.
He's the Republican nominee. He didn't have a couple of documents. He had hundreds of national security documents.
He was a rapist. He's a convicted rapist.
Yeah,
too.
We can say all this because we're in Australia and he's not listening.
No, but he was convicted. Like the judge said he did rape her. Like,
no, he was not convicted.
He was in
civil court.
In civil court, he was convicted. In civil court, he was basically they said he was a rapist.
Which he has now turned around and gone, I want another trial to prove that I'm not. And it's like, dude, it's done. And he
doesn't understand the process.
You can't have another trial until you pay up the $83 million you owe us.
He doesn't understand legal.
Basically, he's broke. Yeah, he's broke and he's terrified that he's not going to get to the election before he finds himself in a cell. Anyway, that's America. The big thing with us is we do not have the ability to vet our politicians. All of their staff are vetted. If you work in a minister's office, you have to be. If you're a staffer, you have to be. If there's that material is in the office, it has and you're handling it, you're vetted. The big thing is we can't vet our politicians simply because You picked them, not the government. Like the government of the day did not pick them. You did, right? So if they're nominated and elected, they get the access to what they need.
Yeah.
That then comes down to the parliament itself. So the government of the day turning around and going, yeah, we don't think the guy who is spending all of his time with an identified Chinese intelligence officer should be the Minister for Home Affairs, right? And that is not to say that our Minister of Home Affairs is spending time with Chinese intelligence officers. Obviously, she's not. What's fascinating about this case was the way it was approached by ASIO, right? And ASIO copped a lot of flack on it, which is hard for a Pisces. They don't like personal criticism, right? But the whole thing was a lot of people sort of said, "Oh, you know, if it was a Labor politician, it would have been leaked to the press already." No, not necessarily. You know, you could say the same thing about if it was a Liberal politician. The whole point of this is they did not want the Chinese to know. They did not want their adversary to know how they knew. And that is the most important thing. It's called standard operational procedures, and they don't want their SOP to be known. Right. So what they did, and I believe he said he actually rang the head of Chinese intelligence and went, "We know what you're doing. Can you stop now, please? Right, we've got you covered. These are the guys we've identified. You probably got more, but pull them out because if we've got those guys, we've got the rest. Now get them out and don't come back." Now, get them out and don't come back is we'll see you the next time you make an attempt. Basically, we know they're not going to stop. This is the game. It's a funny thing. I remember talking to a producer at Channel 9 when I was trying to turn I Spied the Stage Show into a TV series. They went, and then at the end of the episode when the handcuffs lock, and I went, "No, that doesn't happen." And they went, no, it always. I went, "No, it doesn't happen. It's a never-ending story." So the reason this guy wouldn't be charged is, one, we didn't have a law to do it. The MP is not legally bound. And secondly, there could have been a deal made by that politician with ASIO to say, we won't name you if you give us everything you know. Right. If you want to go and fight this in the public forum, it's not going to do your career any well. So what I think is there's a number of things, but I think certainly integrity of our standard operational procedures and the integrity also of our intelligence assets that were working on this. Because if we start telling people how it was done, then the Chinese are going to know who it was that were doing it.
And I don't think we need to know. I'm not really one of those people calling for it, and I know that there are a lot of politicians calling for it, mostly from the right, from Liberal coalition.
Joe Hockey was extremely boisterous in his.
I mean, Joe Hockey's boisterous, regardless, and for some, I mean, look, people in glass houses, but I don't think we need to know. And I don't think it's true when they were saying that, this tarnishes every politician. I don't actually agree with that. I don't think we're looking at every politician going, "Oh, that's you've done this." So
I mean, well, funnily enough,
I think the coalition were just using it for political point scoring.
When you do go into the dumpster fire that is
because Labor certainly were not asking for the politician to be unmasked.
No, but funnily enough, again, the Liberal Party were very, Joe Hockey and certain members of the right were very, very adamant that we needed to know.
Yes,
and
that's what I mean.
Other than Joe Hockey, a lot of them then walked that back very quickly.
Well,
and I think what would have happened was they would have been sat down by ASIO and basically told.
I don't think they walked it back.
Oh, some of them did.
In what way?
Peter Dutton was very strident about we need to know, and then suddenly was like, no, we don't. There was also, I can't remember the name of the guy who was on Q&A on Monday night.
I don't watch Q&A. It doesn't shock me that you watch Q&A.
No, actually, funnily enough, I don't watch it regularly, but I watched it because of the threat assessment, and I knew they'd talk about
Q&A.
it. The same way I try not to watch Insiders anymore because it's just whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, the interesting thing was even the Liberal MP they had, who's a Victorian MP, was like, look, we don't need to know. And
yes, we don't need to know. And I do think what Paul Keating needs to stop.
Now, Paul
Keating needs to stop.
I'm gonna come out.
He's an old man shouting at the sky, he really is.
But here's the thing: as an elder statesman, he is in a position to shout at the sky.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He's not across everything.
He's not across.
He has a perspective, but his perspective was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we do know that he's very much a Sinophile because he was the one who basically opened up trade between Australia and China.
But he's also the one who's saying that they need to get rid of Burgess.
Oh, well, that's just – I don't think there's a lot of love lost between ASIO and Paul Keating.
No, and I get that. But
versa.
Also I don't just stay out of it. No one asked for your opinion.
No one asked for – actually someone did ask for his opinion because it was published. But the bottom line is he was basically going –
he does more harm than he does good.
Yes and no. One of the things I think that he does, and it's an important thing to he says a lot of things that people would want to say if they had the freedom to do it. People in Parliament, when you're in Parliament, you are very restricted in what you can say.
No, he's rude and belligerent.
Yeah, but that's Paul. I mean, he's also...
Yeah, but it's also not the way we do things anymore. And I just think once you've had your time in public office, you can go on your merry way.
Well, I would disagree in that the fact that the elder statesmen in political parties, if that's the case, why do the Liberal Party keep dragging John Howard out for by-elections?
Well, they don't really. He doesn't speak. He doesn't speak. They never never speaks. Not like this guy.
He has, and he has recently. He has.
Not like this though.
Well, that's Paul. Right. The whole thing is,
I know, but it needs
sometimes you need that release. That basically, it's a blast of steam. It takes the pressure out because the great thing about it was basically we had somebody who, and I was having lunch with a dear old friend who's a very well-respected journalist who yesterday turned around and went, mate, what a great spray. Because basically he came in, it's like playing chess with a pigeon. It knocks all the pieces over, shits on the board and claims it's won and flies away. Right. The whole thing is he managed to basically go to the greater extreme of how dare you say that about China? Why is it? He basically had a bit of a spray for the rusted on left of the Labor Party who are feeling a bit disenfranchised because the Labor Party is more centrist. The way both our major parties are sort of more centrist than they are extreme. He's more on the extreme wing of the party, having a bit of an old bolshy clang on a can, on a soapbox in the middle of the Domain, having a bit of a shout.
No one's really paying attention.
Well, they're not paying attention, but the ones that pay attention care. And that's, in a way, he's basically servicing this little group of people that get to go, yeah, why are we doing this? And then they can all take a deep breath. Now, there's one more thing I wanted to bring up about this whole thing is why. Why, if we're not going to tell everyone who this person is, who this MP that is,
to let China know that we're onto them and to let other people know what they need to be careful of.
Not just to let China know that we're onto them. Let anyone else in Parliament dabbling in it know that we're onto them. See, I think that was a really important point that was missed. Yeah, there is a parliamentarian that has been exposed. Yeah. Right? Or an ex-parliamentarian. Let's be fair. They are no longer serving in Parliament. So, again, that just makes the sheet so much broader. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people in Parliament right now that may be dabbling in the same game. Now, again, I'm not casting any names, I'm not casting any aspersions, and I'm certainly not accusing anyone of it. But it's a great way for him to turn around to Parliament and go, we know we don't vet you. We know that you have a free hand in everything you do. Don't think that we're not paying attention. And I think that's a very important thing for all of us, including our politicians, to understand is none of us are exempt from national security. If you breach it, you are in breach of national security. So
what's happening with the A-team then?
Well, I'd say that the A-team is slowly being replaced by the B-team. I mean, he called it the A-team because the Australia team. And also it was a very neat piece of sophistry to put in the speech to make it appeal, and also it appeals to.
Do we think that Do you think that China will stop once they've been disrupted and think? Not stop. No, I don't mean stop. I mean like it feels like it's very forceful on their behalf with the level of interference they're going with.
But that's how China plays. They're not going to pussyfoot around. They're playing the game to win, right? And currently,
but what are they like? I don't understand what they're winning. It's just
information. It's an information war. It's influence. It's information. If we can influence a politician, if we can turn your vote from yes to no or no to yes, that's important. And if we can do something that you will walk into your party room and disrupt party room discussions, that's a win for us. Anything that disrupts, anything that slows something down, anything that gets us closest to how the Americans.
Meantime, China is slowing their own country down. So I feel like maybe they just need a little bit more focus on what's going on with their own economy.
Yeah, but don't forget that your foreign intelligence service is essentially siloed from domestic
Yeah, of
politics
course.
and domestic
But I do feel
operations.
like maybe they need to focus a little bit more domestically than what's going on with every other country and their government.
Don't forget, they have an order of magnitude, or several orders of magnitude, larger populations to play with. They've got a lot more people they can put in the field, and they've got a huge diaspora to draw on as well.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. Has China stopped? No. Will China stop? No. Is Australia going to back down from this? No. Right? Basically, the line has been drawn in the sand. Here's the trick. How do I get across the line without leaving any indication that I've crossed the line? That's what spying is all about.
I know, but
that's why this has been fascinating.
Clearly they've left lots of indications and they've been busted. So what would ASIO be doing from here then?
ASIO would be looking for the next sign that something's going on. I mean, this is the thing. When we say the handcuffs don't lock, it's like, sure, we found the A team, but that doesn't mean that the B, C and D team aren't here yet.
Yeah.
It's a constant. You'll have operations within operations. You'll have fail safes, right? You'll have built-in redundancy into an operation where it might go, right, we've identified 5 of your guys and we know there's another 6 in your team. Get them out and get them out now, or we start the arrests and we start publicly humiliating you on the global stage. China will go, okay, we'll take the 11 out, but leave the other 15 in place because they haven't found them yet. Right? That's the game, right? They call it the great game. And I mean, the interesting thing is essentially this politician has become what we call a lotus eater, right? Somebody who is an intelligence asset that's been exposed. They are dead. They can't be used by the company or the country that was using them, and they sure as hell can't be used by the country they're from, right? So whoever that person is, they're now a lotus eater. It's probably going to be very difficult for them to find work, which raised another very interesting point. What reward did this person get? We don't know. Again, we don't know who they are. Were they paid cash money? Were they given opportunities?
Yeah.
We don't know.
I mean, when it comes to mice, I would say that a politician was working on ego, but could be money.
There's always going to be money, because the interesting thing was, and we said farewell to a Prime Minister the other day when he left Parliament to a very inauspicious valedictory speech, Scott Morrison.
Yeah.
Why did Scott Morrison stay so long in Parliament? Because he didn't have a job to go to, and he has a family and a mortgage. And it's one of the things that it's raised the issue of, do we need to pay our politicians more so they don't betray the country down the line?
They actually don't earn a lot of money. But it's the perks that they get, I think, is where the taxpayers kind of get a bit.
Well, we get
put offside.
I mean, there was the whole thing about Tony Burke spending $57,000 to take his entire team to America for 4 days.
Well,
but
yeah, it's terrible.
But that's also the price of doing business.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. There's a lot of things that happen within government that could probably be cheaper. Look,
totally. I mean, why can't we do it as a Zoom meeting?
Yeah, exactly. And I do think sometimes when governments, either side, get in, they do take the piss.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we don't know it right down to the whole thing about Dutton going over for Gina's birthday party and only spending 40 minutes before getting on the plane. Now, he's made the undertaking that he paid for it himself. And if he did, it's his money.
If he did pay, I'm sure he did pay for himself. But $57,000 for 4 people to go to America for 4 days is when the rest of us are like trying to pay for rent.
We're struggling. Exactly.
But it just doesn't make sense.
These are the things. The perks are where the money disappears, but the actual wages, I mean, the superannuation scheme is meant to be very good.
It is.
But is it enough to have you live in the manner to which you have become accustomed as a politician?
Yeah, the super is great.
Yeah, but is it enough? And can you this is what I'm saying, is like the whole idea is...
Well, this is what happens when you have career politicians and you don't have people who...
Exactly.
Like, we need to start getting politicians who represent the everyman as opposed to career politicians like Anthony Albanese, who was brought up a politician.
Well, he brought up as a unionist and then went into politics.
As a career politician.
So, yeah, there are plenty of career politicians in there. I mean, for me, the analogue of going through the union, the conservative analogue is to go through the IPA. That seems to be a place where they go, they work as a researcher. I think there's about 5 or 6 politicians that have literally gone through IPA and in to the Liberal Party benches. But look, we can talk politics day in and day out.
Yeah.
The most important thing about this is what is really important.
Yeah.
And it comes down to that little horoscope we gave ASIO. What they're working on is a more strategic look at how they're going to operate.
Which is great.
this.
And I think they're doing a good job.
And it means they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Now, Paul Keating demanding that Burgess gets sacked. Yeah, okay, Paul, great. Have another spray. We love watching you at the press club because you love tearing apart young journalists. And that's
young female journalists.
And the male guy, not got a bit of a shellacking too.
But he shouldn't be speaking to anyone like that.
No, exactly. But the whole thing is,
it's just not the way we speak to people.
it's red meat to, the denizens of the internet.
He should stop. He needs to stop.
He's had his spray. That's important. What's been really interesting is we've had the government of the day.
Yeah.
Now, if it was a Labor politician, it's very embarrassing for the party, right? But ultimately, A, they're gone, and B, this is now a problem that is front and centre for the entire country.
But I do think that it is helpful for the parties to know what's within their midst because they probably need to keep an eye on it.
Oh, God, yeah. You don't want to be promoting somebody into a ministerial position when you know that you don't know that they're working with someone.
Both parties all parties. I shouldn't just say both. There is the Greens and 2 Teals, 3 Teals. But I think
4 Teals, I think.
4 Teals. I mean, there won't be after the next election.
I don't know. I think Allegra's got a bit of
Allegra might be the only one.
She's got a bit of a lock.
She might be the only one. She's the only one who's not nuts. I do think the parties do need to be cautious on who they bring into their fold and vet a little bit harder.
I think ultimately it comes down to the vetting of candidates anyway. Some of these candidates are absolutely bonkers. And
absolutely bonkers.
You do want to turn around and go, did you actually talk to this guy before you put them on the poster?
It's crazy.
Right? So I think that ultimately is where we're at with this. It's like our political parties need to do better due diligence in 100%. Monitoring and vetting their candidates. And, happy birthday, ASIO. Great to see.
Let's eat some cake.
Doing a great job.
Let's eat some cake.
Happy birthday to you. Okay, we're going to do that. Okay. All right. Yay.